How many countries do you think there are in the world? A quick Google search will tell you that 195 countries exist. However, if you dig below the surface, then you may find some conflicting numbers. The UN officially recognizes 195 countries, including 193 member states and 2 non-member observer states. However, this list doesn't even include Taiwan and a variety of other smaller states. While the United States CIA's factbook, which is basically a big government encyclopedia, lists 237 countries. Taking a look at your average American map versus your average Moroccan map might look rather different. Did you know that the tiny Buddhist nation of Bhutan is the only country in the world which does not recognize the nation of China at all? Let's explore some of the countries that, according to the UN, don't exist. I'm sure many of you have heard of Somalia, but what about Somaliland or Jamhuriyaddina in Somalia? I deeply apologize for my poor pronunciation. In 1991, the Northern Territory of Somalia declared independence from the rest of Somalia. However, to this day, the UN still does not recognize the Islamic State, and it's not a small state by any extent, with a population of 6 million, almost a million larger than Denmark, and an area larger than France. So why isn't this country on most Western maps? Well, there's actually a fascinating tale behind this unknown nation. Once upon a time, Somaliland was actually recognized by the US. On the 26th of June 1960, Somaliland actually gained independence, and was recognized by up to 35 countries from around the world, including the US. However, on the 1st of July, Somalia became independent, and the two became one nation. It's safe to say that things did not go so well. In 1969, a coup of the military general known as Siad Barre to power. He would rule Somalia for the next 22 years. By the 1980s, support for Barre's regime was beginning to erode, and a militant group known as the Somali National Movement began to rebel against the central government, resulting in the Somaliland War of Independence in the 1980s. Up to 90% of Hargeisa, the capital of Somaliland, was destroyed, and thousands died, such as in the genocide of the Yasak clan, which Barre killed 50,000 to 100,000 civilians. However, some sources put the total death toll to be over 200,000. On the 18th of May 1991, the Somali National Movement declared that it was re-establishing the independence of Somaliland and cut ties with the South. Most countries still do not recognize Somaliland, and the main arguments against the country's independence are mostly due to fear from other nations with potential breakaway states. But if Somaliland gains independence, then the potential breakaway states of their territories might want the same. The impoverished militant state of Eritrea and the violent bloodbath of South Sudan, both of which were breakaway states which gained independence, have not proven to the UN that recognizing Somaliland is a good idea. However, others may argue that there have been examples in the past of a separation of two countries which has been successful, such as when Egypt and Syria were briefly joined together in the United Arab Republic in 1958 and 1961. Furthermore, in recent years the state has generally been far more stable than the south. The capital, Hargeisa, is one of the safest cities in Africa, and there has been almost no reported terrorist activity in Somaliland since 2008. Many may argue that these are the reasons why there should be no excuse that Somaliland has to be stuck in a loveless alliance with Somalia. Morocco is one of Africa's largest economies, as well as Africa's largest tourist destination, as it attracted over 13.2 million visitors at the end of 2023. However, if you look west, then you'll discover a seemingly unsuspecting piece of desert sand with a surprisingly long, complex, and brutal history, which goes by the name of the Western Sahara. It is one of the most arid environments on Earth, and the second most sparsely populated country in the world, with an area larger than the entire UK, with a population of just 500,000. In summer, the temperatures can reach up to 50 degrees, 122 degrees Fahrenheit, and nearly 40% of the country lives in the city of Leon, and yet, This Mad Max area is controlled by 2 different governments. Around 30% of the territory is controlled by the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, which declares Western Sahara to be an independent nation, while the remaining 70% is controlled by Morocco, including the largest city of Leon. To understand why, we must take a look at the past. The area was controlled by the Spanish and was known as the Spanish Sahara until the Spanish left in 1975. The nations of Morocco and Mauritania were in joint administration of the territory. However, a war broke out between the nations, causing Mauritania to eventually withdraw its claims in 1979. During the war, a rebel group known as the Polisario Front was formed, which claimed to be the representative of the Sahrawi people of the Western Sahara, and declared the nation to be independent, to which they formed and established the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic on the 27th of February 1976, or the SADR for short. The SADR controls a large portion of the Southern Territories, and declares all areas under its control to be known as the Free Zone, while Morocco refers to these areas as the Southern Territories. The official capital of the area is the city of El Ain, however. Since the SADR does not control the city, it has declared its temporary capital to be the oasis town of Tifati, which has an estimated population of around 3,000. The SADR has a democratic relations with 46 UN member states, and is even a full member of the African Union. The United States still chooses to back Morocco, while Algeria chooses to back the SADR and their claim on Western Sahara. Regardless, according to most places, this place isn't even a full country, and I wonder if it ever will be. One thing you may have noticed is that all of these self-declared states I have mentioned so far are all fairly poor African nations, which may paint a false impression in your mind, but most of these self-declared states are only found in third world countries. This is simply not correct, as there are actually numerous states in Europe with limited recognition from the UN, such as Abkhazia or South Ossetia in Eastern Europe. However, none is more notable than the Soviet realm, known as Transnistria. The area is located in Moldova, and Moldova considers it to be a part of Moldova. In fact, the only countries which are actually recognized from Transnistria are the breakaway states of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. As I'm sure many of you know, Moldova was part of the Eastern Bloc under the Soviet Union, and after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, Moldova, along with many other former Eastern Bloc countries, adopted capitalism. However, not everyone liked this change. The self-declared independent Republic of Transnistria kept its communist government and continues to be a self-governing area to this day. It is an unrecognized but de facto presidential republic with its own government, parliament, police, currency, vehicle registration, and its own passport. However, most residents also have a Moldovan passport. The area has a population of 300,000, with its capital being located in the city of Tiraspol. This breakaway state is like a time capsule to the days of the Soviet Union, as wandering through the streets, statues of Lenin and more can all be seen. However, currently the European Council considers Transnistria the territory of the Russian military occupation. Well, it seems that where one draws the line on the map is rather complex and delicate matter, which could potentially spark up large amounts of violence and hatred as it has done in the past, regardless of who considers who to be a real country and who isn't. All of these states have their own unique stories, often filled with bloodshed as their motivations for wishing to gain independence. However, one thing in common with every country on Earth is that we all have our own unique cultures and identities. And if those were challenged, I imagine millions would stand up to fight in order to defend their culture and their identity. These breakaway states are proof of human determination and courage.